The light armor strategy is being used to avoid more eco rounds in Valorant. This strategy is just being popularized by pro teams in EMEA, but is this strategy actually effective, and should you use it in your ranked games? The strategy consists of players buying light armor when both teams are on a full buy. This is because guns like the Vandal, Phantom and Operator have little to no effect when using light over heavy shields. Therefore, saving the 600 credits every round allows you to have less broken buy rounds, and the only downside to having light shields on a full buy is that you are one shot to the head with the Phantom from all ranges. So how are pro teams using this strategy? Well, the principles look something like this. After the first couple of buy rounds, if they notice that the enemies are on an eco round, then they'll make sure to buy heavy armor. This is because cheaper weapons like the Judge, Guardian and Spectre all take less bullets to kill, which could be the difference between winning that gunfight. So if you decide to use this strategy, make sure you're checking every round to see what the enemy's buy is like. The next principle the pro teams followed was that once their economy was in a healthy position, then they would begin to buy heavy shields. Obviously, they don't want to be saving money if they have more than enough, and so the heavy shields will help them be more protected against util. Don't forget that the extra 25 HP could be the difference between a gunfight. Let's say you got hit pretty badly with the Raise Nade at the start of the round, and it dealt 100 HP. And so depending on what shields you bought, you're now down to either 25 or 50 HP. As you probably know, the Vandal and Phantom roughly do 40 damage to the body, and so the difference between surviving that extra bullet could be whether you win or lose. These are the sort of things you have to think about when deciding whether this strategy is worth it or not. So if that extra 25 HP could be the decider for if you win that gunfight, then why take the risk buying light shields? Well, in pro play, players have exceptionally good aim, and so most of their fights will end in a headshot. Also, with the recent changes to spraying, you'll see less players spamming through smokes, resulting in less chip damage. Therefore, the extra health really doesn't affect much. So this brings us on to the big question: should you use this strategy in your ranked games? Well, when I tried it in my ranked games, I found the extra money to be very helpful in some rounds, allowing me to buy that extra piece of util. The first thing I noticed was looking at the enemy team composition before the game was very important. Understanding what agents they had could sometimes decide whether I would use this strategy during the game or not. If they had 2 or more agents that could do huge chip damage, then I would most likely buy heavy shields on the majority of the rounds. I would also like to add the agent you play could determine whether you should buy light or heavy armor. If you're playing an entry role, then you'll probably want to buy heavy shields, as most likely you'll be eating up any mollies and grenades that will be thrown your way. However, other roles like controllers or sentinels, you'll find yourself not taking any chip damage, as you should be the last ones to make contact, so saving that extra money could be useful later on. Also, if you're playing any agents like Jet and Chamber, then there's no need for this strategy in my opinion, as you don't have to buy any weapons when using your ultimates, so therefore your economy shouldn't be a big issue. Another thing I found when using it in my ranked games was that as the rounds went on, eventually my team would have to eco even though I could still buy. Obviously everyone on your team in ranked will be buying heavy shield, so is this strategy still effective even though your team doesn't buy all light shields? I found it to still be worthwhile, as when my team eco'd, I could still buy quite a strong weapon and have a much stronger chance of having an impact and potentially winning that round. So obviously the strategy will lead to less ecos completely in pro play, as all 5 teammates will be able to buy light shields and save up enough money to skip an eco round, but in ranked that won't really happen. What I also found very useful when doing this strategy was if I died but my team stayed alive, I could still just about buy with my team for the next round. If I had bought heavy shields, then I would have to buy an eco gun like a Sheriff, while my team would all have Vandals, and this would drastically decrease my chances of having an impact in that round. One mistake I did when I started doing this strategy was on round 3, when I had lost the first 2 rounds, I would buy light shield as my team would be full buying. But it wasn't a full buy for both teams, which led me to be more vulnerable on light shields. I think on very important rounds, you must be buying heavy shields to make sure you secure that round. Make sure you're buying as normal up to round 4, because even though you're on a full buy, both teams are not, and so the weaker guns are much more effective against you. One thing that is really interesting is that if this strategy really becomes popular and becomes the norm, then it will change the economy in Valorant forever. This is because guns like the Odin, Judge, Guardian will all be much more powerful, and therefore people will implement them into their full buy rounds. You can already start to see this happening in pro play. As the pros know which teams use this strategy, mainly the Odin is being used a lot more as it's more powerful against light shields. So, should you be buying light shields in your ranked games? Well, from about a week of using this strategy, I can definitely say it's benefited me. I think if you followed this guide closely and learn when to buy light shields, then it's going to be a useful strategy for you, and it could save you a couple extra buy rounds during a game. If you want to learn about how to aim like Fnatic Durka, then click here. If not, it's been your boy Critical. Peace out.